What is good, everybody? Rob Statscareer here, back with you. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulties, mainly caused by my trusted Lieutenant Levin Black, who accidentally decided to shut down the stream when he when he left the podcast. So I apologize for that. But we are back up and running here in the 2025 NFL Draft. We are in round number 3 right now. The 49ers just made their first, I should say, third round pick. Linebacker Nick Martin was the pick at 75. We were just talking about that as it went down. Welcome your questions, your comments. Just want to drop the new link for the stream as a comment on the old one because I want to make sure people can find us, quite frankly. And, technical difficulties happen to everybody. There's nothing we can do. It's not something we planned for, of course, but hey, it happens, and we make the best of it, and we move on. Let me just throw that comment in there, and I can pin this back up, and we can get back to our real life here in the NFL Draft. Sorry about that, everybody. Dieter Kurtenbach is not happy with the pick of Nick Martin. I'm seeing a lot of people call it an overreach, basically. I brought up the Dane Brugler draft guide, like I said, and he had him going in the 5th round, and the Niners took him in the 3rd round. So, yeah, that is a huge reach in terms of that. I'll just say that is something that the Niners have done throughout their history. They generally have a different big board, a different consensus than everybody else. But that ultimately doesn't matter, right? What matters is this guy a good pick? Is this guy a fit for their system? The 49ers think that they can tell if they have someone in that way that can be that. And so they made the pick, and they don't really have to care about the consensus. I was saying this, and I don't know if we got cut off or not, and I apologize if we did. If you look at the RAS score, which is what is up on the stream right now if you're watching, there's 2 red boxes. That's height and weight. Not ideal for Nick Martin, but there's a lot of green everywhere else, right? And if you don't have the height and weight, you better have the athletic profile to compensate for that. And it appears like he does. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro, but he ran a 4.53 40-yard dash. He had a great 20-yard split, a good 10-yard split. He can be a solid contributor, and they desperately need a linebacker. They're telling you they don't like D winners. They have told you that a million times, including this offseason, by the way. So you had a feeling they were going to go linebacker. They went with Nick Martin. Again, I'm not going to pretend like he's awesome, right? I don't know. I don't know, period. None of us know, right? I certainly haven't dug into the draft to get into Nick Martin. All I can do is read the things that Dane Brugler and other smart people say, and we're going to figure it out. But I'm going to try and maintain some happiness on this day. Like I said, there'll be plenty of time to crap on him if he's bad. Let's get into some of what people are saying. Matt Barrows says new linebacker Nick Martin met with the Niners at the Senior Bowl, had a formal meeting at the Combine and a Zoom meeting with Johnny Holland, linebackers coach. Presumably he'll compete with D Winners for the Niners' weak side job. Presumably, I don't think that's much of a presumption, quite frankly. I think he's automatically going to compete. Javi Vega, who's just with us, said he's going to be the starter. So we'll see. More info here as I just kind of scroll through, and bear with me. I'm kind of going through this, with you now. Now that I'm by myself, I'm trying to do this as much as I can. David Lombardi said Nick Martin said his knee injury was a torn MCL that he suffered last year. He recovered without surgery, and he was fully healthy for the Combine. So MCL injuries do heal. Now, a torn MCL is a little scarier, but he says he's fully healthy. He says he was fully healthy for the Combine. So, okay. He was second in the FBS with 83 solo tackles 2 seasons ago and seems ideal for an early special teams impact. Again, that's David Lombardi, so take it with a grain of salt. SF Data 49ers points out Dre Greenlaw was considered a 97 spot reach back in 2019. He was drafted at 148, and the consensus big board was 245. So again, sometimes it works out, but we don't know. We have to see. Joe Tiz says this was a terrible pick. Have you spent a lot of time breaking down Nick Martin, Joe? Like, what are you basing that on? Would be my question. That's what I would want to know. The big Golden Arms PR says the damn Sanders family is in shambles. The bigger, I think, storyline, whether or not, because again, I'm not going to pretend to know too much about Nick Martin. I always promise you 100% authenticity on this show. I'm not always 100% accurate because I make predictions and I get emotional about things, and everybody gets things wrong in this business, but I promise 100% authenticity. I don't know that much about him. So, in fact, I didn't even know he existed until this moment, to be honest. But let's zoom out a little bit. And let's take a bigger picture look at what the 49ers have done so far in this draft. Defense, defense, defense. Mykel Williams, edge in round 1. Alfred Collins, defensive tackle in round 2. And now Nick Martin, linebacker in round 3. The 49ers are telling you our defense stunk last year. They are telling you it was unacceptable. You don't spend the amount of draft capital that they have spent on defense unless you think your defense was absolutely horrible and the weak link of the team. They addressed it by firing Nick Sorensen and bringing in Robert Saleh, and now they are addressing it on the field as well with their third straight defensive selection in this draft. And there were some good offensive players that were there, right? Jalen Noel was still there if the 49ers wanted him. He ended up actually in Houston with his teammate, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. So the Texans got both of the Iowa State wide receivers. Get ready for your Brock Purdy trade request to Houston. No, just kidding. But so the Niners could have had him, but they chose not to go. They chose to go away from the offense because your first round pick was a wide receiver last year. Kyle kind of got the treat last year, right? Now it's Saleh's back. Clearly his influence is shining through. They are giving him a lot of shine in this draft process. Saleh is there to fix the defense, and he may only be there for 1 year. So if he's got this sort of magic eye to help you scout these guys and get the good people, then you better take advantage of it, right? What's the point of hiring Robert Saleh if you're not going to give him some influence? And clearly he has it, and clearly he is using it. Trying to see a couple more nuggets about Nick Martin. Let's see. Started 5 games in 2024, had 47 tackles, including 7.5 tackles for loss with 1 sack, 2 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. He missed 7 games due to that torn MCL. Again, apparently he says he's fully healthy by the combine. So, okay. Steph Sanchez, let me read this tweet to you. This way here, we can all experience it together. Plus, I can put something new on the screen. Steph Sanchez, our own Steph Sanchez, says, Nick Martin, crazy speed. He chased down Xavier Worthy. Yeah, that's a pretty good speed. Never gives up on a play and target acquired type vision and work ethic through traffic. I mean, in the 3rd round at pick 100, everybody's going to have a wart, right? Clearly, there's going to be some warts there, but let's focus on the positive stuff. All that stuff sounds really good. And the Niners have had some luck with linebackers. Let's give them a little bit of faith. That's all I'm saying. Let's exercise a little bit of faith. Let's not go into it automatically assuming that the player is going to suck and then they have to prove us wrong. Let's go into it saying, hey, maybe this guy's going to be good, and we'll see how it turns out. Let me read some of the comments here. Mike on YouTube says, preferred Scatterboo or Paul, but I'm sure Saleh knows what he's doing. I think they can get Scatterboo later, to be honest with you. And like really, you've got Christian McCaffrey. You've got Isaac Guerrero. You've got Patrick Taylor, you've got Israel Abanikanda. If you can get Scatterboo later, like in round 4, you've got a couple 4th round picks or even round 5, then great. But like, I don't think you go out of your way to get that guy just because of the position that he played. Rick Diaz says, we need on the front line protection for our quarterback, a center, a good center. I write guard in the lifeguard. We are in trouble, but we don't get some guys like that. I mean, I think you know the 49ers philosophy. They think that they can sort of figure it out with the offensive line. And now we can get mad at that, but they could say, hey, look, we just did it with Dominic Pooney, right? So they don't view it as much of a priority as we do. Kyle Shanahan just said at the owners' meetings that he thought Jake Brendel was one of the best pass protectors in the league, or not pass protect, run blockers, I believe, at center. So they don't think it's as big a deal. By the way, I'm just looking because I did miss a bunch of picks after Nick Martin. Siobhan Revel went to the Cowboys, a corner who could be a really good corner. He's got some health questions, but that's a possibility. The Panthers took Princely Umanalin. I think that's how you say his name. Umanmielen. I apologize for not knowing that. He's gone to Carolina. Jordan Birch goes to the Cardinals at 78. Jalen Noel, as I said, goes 79 Justin Whaley, a corner, goes to the Colts. Why don't I just put this on the screen instead of just reading it off so people can see it? There we go on the screen. So we are all the way down at pick 86 right now. Dylan Fairchild went to Cincy. Kevin Winston Jr., the safety, went to Tennessee. Caleb Johnson, the running back, goes to Pittsburgh. Man, Pittsburgh passed on Shedeur Sanders again. Oh, man. I don't know what Shedeur Sanders must have said in those interviews, but holy hell. Jacob Parrish goes to a corner from Kansas State, goes to Tampa, and Noel Williams, also a corner, goes to the Chiefs. So we are at 86 right now. The Niners right now don't pick again until pick 100. That is, man, third to last pick in the round. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will do their press conference during the round like they did in round one. Johnny Dell's new YouTube channel, new member of the Gold Standard staff, says every year the Niners select a guy everyone says they could have gotten 2 rounds later. This is the way. And here's the thing also. And, you could say I got my Homer glasses on, and maybe I do. I fully admit it. How do we know they could have gotten him 2 rounds later? Because some draft person says they could get him in the 5th round. We don't really know, right? We don't know. They have more information than we do. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. That's all I'll say. Kyle Posey from Niners Nation has tweeted a little bit about Nick Martin. I always respect what Kyle says about players. Let me throw that up on the screen. Nick Martin is at his best as a blitzer. That's his strength. Oklahoma State used him to get after the quarterback, and he did a lot. He generated pressure on 33% of his rushes last year. He has over 100 pass rushes. That'll be how he sees the field early with the Niners, winning with speed. Well, I do like hearing that, quite honestly, because I think that the 49ers should blitz with their linebackers more. They really don't blitz with Fred Warner at all. Now, part of that is because he's just really damn good in coverage, but I think it's something that they could do, especially last year. I was begging them to do it because their defensive line was so deficient. So if maybe with Robert Saleh, part of this evolution of what he's going to do and what he's going to bring to the team is that he's going to blitz a little more. And you know what? I'm here for it. Fantastic. Please do. The more pressure we can get on the quarterback, the better, quite frankly. And if that's what Nick Martin is good at and that's what you want to use him at, great. I always say, I know I've said it a lot, but I'm going to keep repeating it. Just let the guys do what they're good at. Don't ask them to change. If you need a guy to change, don't draft that guy. Draft another guy that already is the thing you want the other guy to change into. So if that's what Nick Martin is good at, good. Let him rush the quarterback. Let me check the chat here. Doug Pine says Brock will be on a cart before the season is over. That is a common refrain. And I want to say this. Not every injury that happens to a quarterback is because the offensive line, you could just blame the offensive line. Guys are going to get through. Guys are going to blitz the quarterback. Guys are going to hit the quarterback, even when you have a really good offensive line. So you can't just say this would have been prevented if Kyle had drafted an offensive lineman. Quarterbacks get hurt, man. It's a thing that happens. You have to acknowledge that and live with that. You can't prevent all injuries by drafting really good offensive linemen. Even if you had Hall of Fame offensive linemen, your quarterback's still going to get hurt or hit, I should say. So just we have this thing that we want to blame Kyle Shanahan for all injuries because Trey Lance got hurt, and it just rubs me the wrong way. More from Kyle Posey. There was a second part to that tweet that I should have put up for you, and I apologize for not doing it. KP said, Nick Martin's a bit of a wild child. The Niners are going to have to harness some of his aggression. That recklessness leads him to running out of gaps too soon, but you'd rather have it like that than the other way around, and that you wouldn't want him to be passive and steer clear of contact. Yes. Yes, 1,000% yes. This defense needs a little crazy. I've been saying it, right? That's what Dre Greenlaw brought. And Levin said it earlier. Early on, Dre Greenlaw was kind of a wild child. He didn't read things accurately, or he misread them, and he would run in the wrong spot and leave a gap for somebody to run through. There's some of that, and you're going to have to live with some of that, but they need that aggression. I want the aggression. I want the fire. I want the crazy. So bring it on. That is the most encouraging thing that I've seen about Nick Martin from anybody. So great. And Brad Graham tweets the thing that I think a lot of us are thinking, which is, I like Nick Martin, the player. The question becomes, was it too early? But if he becomes the player the 49ers think he is, No one will care. It won't matter. And that is exactly it. Don't freak out about placement. Did they get a good player? Yes or no? That's all you should worry about. Rod Simmons says he had a great year in 2023 with 6 interceptions and over 100 tackles. Yeah, the knee injury kind of derailed him from last year. Could he be like a Chris Borland type player? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to compare them physically or anything like that. I know that Borland was also a guy that was a tackling machine. So maybe I'll take a look at that and see if they compare favorably. Wedge Antilles says, Rob, do you think we're going all defense on the draft? It's funny. As we lead up to this process, everybody does mock drafts, right? It's fun. You get the mock draft machine, you do it. And after you've done a bunch of them, people like to have a little fun, right? So they're like, all right, well, we'll do an all offensive line mock draft or an all defensive line mock draft. How hilarious would it be if the Niners' actual draft was literally all defensive players? Hey, you never know. I do think, too, part of the reason that they're going so much on defense is because I think that they think that they can, when you get to later in the draft, you're just looking for traits, right? What does this guy do? This thing. Can I use this thing in my system that way? And I think the 49ers think that there's a bunch of guys that they can take, that they can adapt the system to, that have maybe one or two particular skills. They don't have everything, because if they did, they'd be a top pick. But they've got one or two particular type skills that they can use to sort of get something out of them, whether it's a returner, whether it's a slot receiver, whether it's a backup blocking tight end, something like that, a swing tackle, something. And I think that they are not going to force it because they think there are more of those guys than there are other guys, like a Nick Martin or someone like that. Ethan Parrish, thank you for the super chat, says, shout out Rob for predicting the jersey announcement. I did do that. That is true. I knew something was up as soon as they changed their avatar. This is not my first go round. Let me just say that. I know how this team operates. Jason Ponte tweeted, one thing is very clear. This is Robert Saleh's draft. Yeah, obviously. They spent the first 3 picks. So it's Robert Saleh's world right now. Let me see what Croc is tweeting. Okay. He's just tweeting about hopes and dreams. If anyone has seen that jersey, by the way, please let me know, because they've tweeted about it. They said that there's going to be something, but they haven't thrown it out there, and I haven't seen it leaked just yet. So if anyone has seen it, let me know, because I'm fascinated. I love jersey stuff. Like, I love when teams change logos and all that stuff. So if anyone has seen it, let me know, because I will be on the hunt, so to speak. All right, I don't want to throw this video in the chat because it's the NFL Network draft footage, and it'll get demonetized and flagged if I throw it in the chat. But apparently somebody during the NFL Network breakdown of Nick Martin said every play that you see is a flash play. That's encouraging. I like hearing that, right? Especially for a 3rd-round pick. Nick Wagner of ESPN, who always has good and interesting things to tweet, says, Mel Kiper had Nick Martin listed as his favorite off-ball linebacker prospect this year, noting people have been sleeping on Martin because of the knee injury. Mel projected him to go 84 to Tampa Bay in a mock draft. He goes 75, of course, to San Francisco. So that's encouraging. That's good, right? See, it's not all negative. It's not all negative. PMG says, what was the jersey news? Apparently, there's some sort of rivalry thing that the 49ers are going to be doing, and Nike has a special jersey for it. And so I don't think I'm surprised they haven't released it yet, because they like to do the actual release during the draft because everyone's watching, so they see it and then they go, oh my God, I got to get that jersey. But apparently it hasn't happened just yet. Ethan Parrish says future 49ers head coach Robert Saleh. Sorry, I wasn't addressing him, with his proper title. Diego Figueroa says the jersey is supposed to be revealed after the schedule release. The schedule release, by the way, if you missed that, is May 14th. It's a Wednesday. I love the schedule release. It's one of my favorite days. It's fantastic. It matters. It's a huge deal for teams and how their season's going to go. So I absolutely love the schedule release. That is coming in May, according to Diego Figueroa. The jersey will come with the schedule release in May. So there you go. Brandon Chavez says, Stats, what's your take on the next pick? Has to be Jared Wilson, a center at Georgia. I got to think it's offense, right? Like, you have to think could they go 4 straight picks just on defense. I would be surprised if that happened, but obviously a lot's going to depend on how the board falls to them. Let's see. The Chargers have taken Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle from Oregon. Savion Williams, the wide receiver that, people thought kind of had some Debo to him, went to the Packers at TCU. Packers have taken a couple of wide receivers that, are interesting. Who did they take earlier? They took the Golden. That's right. The first wide receiver in a first round in like a billion years. Now they get Savion Williams. They are just collecting weapons for Jordan Love. And then the Jaguars, have made 2 straight picks at 88 and 89. Caleb Ransaw, the corner from Tulane, and Wyatt Millam, the guard from West Virginia, are off the board. So we are at pick 90 right now with the Rams. So we are 10 picks away from the 49ers' last pick of the day. We'll see if it, at this point, I feel like just go defense, right? Just go defense and cap the day, and we'll see. Astro says the Rams are going to pick Scatterboo. I hope not. Come on. Don't pick Cam Scatterboo. Leave him for he's such a 49er guy. And again, how many times have we seen a guy that was like rumored to go to the 49ers or we think might fit with the 49ers, and then they end up in the NFC West anyway? We've already seen that a couple of times in this draft. I don't want to see it anymore. We're going to see Walter Nolan twice a year. We're going to see Gray Zabel twice a year. He's going to be in Seattle. Nolan is in Arizona. Will Johnson, also the corner from Michigan, is going to be in Arizona. We're going to see enough of these guys in the NFC West. Man, the memes are coming out about Kyle Shedeur not picking offense and not picking offensive line. Boy. Sorry, I just saw something about the Mariners. That's incredibly depressing. Anyway, so we'll see. Shedeur Sanders still has yet to be picked. PMG says if Vegas takes Shedeur and Horton at 98 and 99. I know that Shedeur has a lot of ties to Tom Brady. Apparently, that's something that I have seen. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been enough for them to take him. The Rams pick is in. I haven't seen who it is. So we'll see about the Rams. And if they did, in fact, take Scatterboo, I don't know. I hope not. Again, I like to have something to hope for later in the day, too. He's one of the, like I said, I don't know a ton of these guys. So he's one of the names that I do know. So we'll see. Let's see. Jason Aponte says, one thing is very clear. This is Robert Saleh's draft. Evan Soward said, if I'm coming back, you're giving me a better defense than the BS you had last year. He's built it up once before. Robert Saleh has built this defense up once before. And I'm sure he said, look, I can do it again, but you got to give me the tools. You have to give me the pieces. And because of the 49ers, really lack of aggression when it comes to free agency, this is the assignment. This is what they had to do if they were going to build up that defense, because they just let all these guys walk. They didn't replenish nearly the forces that they did. They had to do it this way. This was the assignment coming into the draft. They understood it, and that's what they're doing. Did Vegas? Let me see. Oh, no, the Rams are still up now. The Niners signed DeMarcus Robinson, too. So maybe that was part of the reason why they didn't take Jalen Noel when they did. They think that, hey, he's going to be our guy, and we don't need to force the draft picks, and we'll figure it out after that. So I had forgotten about that. So maybe that's part of the reason why they didn't take him. I'm trying to see if anybody else has tweeted anything interesting about Nick Martin. Matt Mayoko. Let me throw this up on the screen. Matt Mayoko, still having fun, tweets out Niners draft and Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Martin. Then he says round 3, pick 100. Offensive line? ? Wide receiver? ? Defensive back? Kicker? And then just kidding. Can you imagine the revolt that would occur if the Niners did in fact take a kicker? They're not going to do that. There's no way. I'm still not seeing the Rams pick. Has anybody seen it? I haven't even seen it leaked on Twitter anywhere. Niners still have 2 4ths, 2 5ths, and 3 7ths. They have not made a trade. Did the Niners ever go through a draft without making a single trade in this regime? I don't know off the top of my head. But that would be kind of surprising, considering they had so many picks. You would think that they would have made a move, and maybe they tried. I mean, they did try to move in round 1, but I think that people also there's trying to move up, and then there's offering 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance, right? That's the difference. You can try to move up by trying to throw in like, hey, can I throw in an extra fourth and move up a couple spots? That's trying to move up. Then there's also the what's it going to take? You know, we don't know which one of those two the 49ers went with ultimately. But obviously they didn't need to move up because they ended up getting Mykel Williams right where they were at 11. By the way, the Rams have taken Josiah Stewart, a linebacker with the number 90 overall pick. The Rams are just continuing to build that defense, man. They have a young defense that really came on late in the year last year, and they're still bolstering it. Now, they also took some offensive players earlier in the draft. They started the draft with a tight end, Terrence Ferguson, in round 2. Josiah Stewart was their second pick of the whole draft, as a matter of fact. But he's the edge from Michigan. Rams are going to be a problem. They have a good coach. They have a good quarterback. They have a good defense. I don't know if the Niners' odds to win the NFC West are still number 1 over the Rams, but the Rams are going to be damn good. That's going to be a battle. All the division games this year, if I'm going to be honest with you, I think all the division games this year for the Niners are going to be really tough. They only won 1 division game last year. Seattle, you don't know what Sam Darnold's going to be at quarterback, but they have good coaching. The division is well coached now. It wasn't always in the Shanahan regime. Now it is. I think the division is well coached. Seattle's going to be a pain in the ass. The Rams, obviously, are always difficult. And the Cardinals are well coached also. Now, I'm not a Kyler Murray guy. Never really have been. To me, if your quarterback is not all in, and you have to put in the contract that he has to watch X amount of film, that's not a good sign. Like, I'll never believe in that guy. But they are well coached, and they are adding pieces. They added Walter Nolan. They added Will Johnson. So I think the division's going to be a pain in the ass next year for sure. Excuse me. Speaking of things that are a pain in the ass, Shedeur Sanders just tweeted, "Thank you, God, for everything." Still has not been picked. We are venturing towards pick 100, towards the 49ers pick, and no Shedeur Sanders. The Ravens picked Emory Jones Jr., the offensive tackle from LSU. We are on pick 92. We are 8 picks away, or 9 picks away, I guess. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 9 picks away. The Raiders have the 2 picks in front of the 49ers right now. The Raiders have 98 and 99. I'm sure Tom Brady would just love to stick it to the 49ers one more time because they didn't want him in free agency. Southpaw points out that the Rams have 2 first-round draft picks next year. That's right. So that's another factor. They can potentially get a quarterback. Daniel Howen says, maybe Seattle takes Bo Callahan. I mean, Shedeur Sanders. That's funny. At this point, like, why not, right? If you think this guy has any ability whatsoever, why not take Shedeur Sanders? We're going to the 100th pick in the draft. It's not like he has, run into problems with law enforcement or anything like that off the field. The off the field red flag for him is just his dad, but that's not, it's not like he did anything wrong. It's not his fault. So you may as well take a flyer on him. Let's see what Seattle is going to do. The pick is in right now. Trying to wait and see who it is. Could it be a quarterback? It is a quarterback. It's Jalen Milroe from Alabama. That is interesting because they have Sam Darnold there. Yeah, he's a long-term answer. You don't know. Now Seattle goes Jalen Milroe. And I will say this. They're going to find a way to get that guy on the field early. He can freaking run. Man, he can run. As a passer, I don't know. I'm sure he's got work to do, but whoo, baby. Let me see if I can get to, so they have the actual testing numbers. They got to have it somewhere. I don't actually see it. Oh, let's see. Here we go. He didn't run a 40 at the combine. He ran a 4.4 flat at his pro day. 10-yard split of 1.56, 20-yard split of 2.57. He can move on the ground. They will find a way to get him into the game. Maybe they do a package. Maybe they do like a 2-quarterback thing for a little while. Maybe it's just red zone, whatever. But how about that? The Seattle Seahawks, another quarterback taken before Shedeur Sanders. It's a shame. This could be the Shedeur Sanders draft where we'll all remember that anybody could have had him and everybody passed on him multiple times, or he'll stink and we won't remember it at all. And we'll just be like, yeah, the league was right about that. Let's see in the chat. People are saying, talk about the 49ers next pick. Well, it's coming up here. Pretty soon we'll be there. Now, there's only 5 minutes between picks, and teams are getting them in pretty quickly. Seattle goes Gray Zabel. They take a safety in round 2. Nick Emawari, excuse me, my voice is going. Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, and now Jalen Milroe. So that's a lot of offense for Seattle, which is interesting. Hey, you got to figure it out around Sam Darnold. No DK Metcalf in Seattle, so they got to build it back up a little bit, and they're trying to do that. And again, a guy that we will see. I'm sure we will see Jalen Milroe on the field. Who knows? If Sam Darnold struggles, and he very well could, Jalen Milroe could be the damn starter for the Seahawks. So let's see. MC says, is Shedeur Sanders blackballed? I don't know, but I mean, what quarterbacks are even left at this point? Let me check the Dane Brugler guide here, because a lot of them have freaking come off the board already. Let me throw it up on the screen. We can find out together. Cam Ward is gone. Shedeur Sanders was the number 2 quarterback on Dane Brugler's big board. Jackson Dart, gone. Tyler Shuck, gone. Jalen Milroe, gone. So now we're at the Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel portion of the draft. Riley Leonard. That's where we are right now. Okay. I don't know if he's blackballed, but damn. This is a long, long, long fall for Shedeur Sanders. Southpaw says Gabriel's better than Sanders. Baloney Jones. What up, Rob? What up, Baloney Jones? That's a fantastic name. Cobra Commander, speaking of fantastic names, says, I wonder if teams are afraid of LeVar or Alonzo Ball type circus with Shedeur and Prime. That's what I'm afraid of, quite frankly. Deion Sanders is not quiet, okay? If there's one thing we've learned about him, Deion has never been and will never be quiet. And it depends on your situation. But if you're like the Niners, for instance, you don't want that crap. If Brock Purdy's your guy, you don't want somebody behind him that's going to be a threat. You want it to be his team, his franchise. You want that. You don't want uncertainty. You don't want a circus and a sideshow. And that's what it would be with Shedeur. The Niners just saw it with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. So hopefully they don't take that plunge, although Peter Schrager did say it's a possibility. But if you're a team, you got to consider that. Now, maybe you don't care about that. Maybe it's getting to the point in the draft where you don't care about it. But that's something that has to factor in to your decision making. The Saints pick is in. Jonas Sanker, the safety for Virginia, is off the board. So we are still 7 picks away from the 49ers pick. They will, of course, have the final pick. Shanahan and Lynch will have a press conference to break down day 2, and we'll learn a little bit more about these guys, unless they've already had it. Let me check the 49ers beat just to see what they're saying. Mike Renner, by the way, of PFF, had Nick Martin in the top 100, linebacker 5 for him. So, again, that's a lot closer to the 49ers pick of where they ultimately took him. I haven't seen anything else from the Niners beat, so nothing from Kyle and Shanahan just yet, obviously. Ooh, this is a nice little nugget. This is not draft related, but it should make a lot of 49er fans happy. According to Rap Sheet and Mike Garafolo, George Kittle was back in the building today for offseason conditioning. So remember, George didn't show up that first day. And there was the Diana Rossini report about, what is he staying away for contractual reasons? He wants to be the highest paid tight end in the league. George Kittle said, hey, that's not true, but we don't know which part he was referring to, if it was the highest paid thing or what. But anyway, George is back in the building for offseason conditioning. So unless he's got a new deal, I think we can say it wasn't because he was unhappy with his contract, or totally not happy with not having a new deal, I should say. So good news for the 49ers. Hooray. Welcome George Kittle. You are a welcome sight around the facility. Wedgie Antilli says, what happened to the reports of the so-called deal for Purdy? Well, they said they was inching closer. There wasn't a deal. No one reported that a deal was done. They were getting closer. So, jeez. Sorry. D-Rex says, bro, Bernie Sanders is getting drafted before Shedeur. That's outstanding. But anyway, good news for George Kittle. That's something that I hadn't seen sort of widely out there. So great job by RSF 49ers talking about it. I appreciate that because I do like those little updates. Rappaport tweeted out about it. Sorry, I'm been talking for 7 hours the last 2 days. Rappaport also added, as the two sides continue to discuss a contract extension, Kittle was back in the building. He said, as the two sides continue to discuss a contract extension, ... He did the ... at the end. I feel like when you throw in the period like that, that is not, you're saying there's more to the story there without saying it, right? That ... I don't know. Maybe that Ian knows something there that the rest of us don't know. It wouldn't shock me. Trying to see if anybody else has said anything. Nope. Kyle Posey. Okay. Everyone else has just kind of tweeted out things. Nick Martin. Nick Martin said the only jersey that he has purchased is a Fred Warner jersey. Gotta like that, right? I mean, I'm not surprised that linebackers model their games after Fred Warner. You should. That would be a smart thing to do.
I have two linebackers I have big respect for. It's Ray Lewis and Fred Warner. Yep. I mean, they dogs. I mean, they got a knack for the ball and play recognition, you know, and Fred, he balling right now. Yeah. And I grew up watching Ray Lewis. I mean, and I never bought any player's jersey other than Fred Warner's. Like, I mean, he's like I'll wear his jersey and be proud of, you know what I'm saying? Like he a dog for real. I mean, he's definitely a dog. And I don't necessarily mold my game after anybody because it's like I want to innovate the linebacker position in my way, you know what I'm saying? And not necessarily like trying to be somebody else, you know, but it takes game to no game. So you got to look at people that's doing it right now, saying what they're doing, like, all right, bet, like, hooping for sure. Like, you know what I'm saying?
There you go. Good respect for Fred Warner. You should, you know, the Niners have gone all defense so far, and every guy they've taken, like Michael Williams is like, oh my God, Nick Bosa. I can't wait to meet Nick Bosa and learn from Nick Bosa. Now you've got Nick Martin talking up Fred Warner. Like, there is a value in that too, as the 49ers shift to sort of this next era. You need the old guys, so to speak. I know they're not old, but they're aging, to show the young guys the way, quite frankly, right? To carry on that culture. If that's the culture you want to preserve in your locker room, you need Fred Warner to get with Nick Martin and coach him up on that and show him how to be a professional and show him the way the 49ers do things. You need George Kittle to do that as well. You need everybody. Nick Bosa has to do that for Michael Williams. You have to continue that. They always talk about the standard. Well, the standard is only a thing because of the players. They set that, and they have to keep it going. They're the ones that have to maintain it. So that's how that happens. It gets passed down from the vets to the young guys, and the Niners are in a position to do it. Another quarterback is off the board, and it is not Shedeur Sanders. Dillon Gabriel from Oregon. The Cleveland Browns finally take a quarterback. They do it at number 94. They go Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Just one punch to the gut after another for Shedeur Sanders, man. Oh, baby. This is epic, but at least it gives ESPN something to talk about. Bonte Hill just tweeted, by the way, we all watched the Rose Bowl, LOL, not hating, but this is laughable. I didn't watch the Rose Bowl, so I can't say one way or another. I do know that Shedeur Sanders was pretty damn good at Colorado last year, and there's nothing that he has done, unless he went into those interviews and was like, bleep everybody. I guess he could have done that. Maybe he did. There was an anonymous coach that said it was the worst interview he's ever seen. Now, look, he didn't run the 40. He didn't do any drills. He didn't do anything at a pro day, right? That's kind of contrary to what a lot of rookies do. The NFL could perceive that as this guy thumbing his nose at us. I think more likely the NFL doesn't want guys to do that, what Shedeur Sanders did. The NFL doesn't want guys to say, hey, look at my film. I am what I am. Take me wherever you want. Because they have to put out this offseason product, right? What do we talk about in February after the Super Bowl? Combine. They get days of content because guys are running and doing drills and doing interviews, and there's news and stories and all that stuff. The players don't get paid for that. That's all voluntary. Nobody has to do any of that. And if all the players suddenly stopped saying, hey, I'm not doing this for free. I've already done my work. I've already given my job interview. I'm not doing that. The NFL would kind of be screwed. There'd be a huge hole in their calendar. And I can't wonder. I do wonder if part of the reason that Shedeur isn't drafted is because he didn't do any of that stuff. And the league doesn't want the robots to become self-aware. They don't want other top prospects to say, hey, I don't have to do anything either. Just throwing it out there. Modella Time 1999 says the way the draft is going, the Orlando Guardians will draft Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, I'm sure they'll try, right? You'll get some headlines out of it. PMG says his interviews at the combine were me. How do we know this though? Is it just, are we all going off that same one report from the anonymous scout? Or have there been multiple? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I don't know. Cobra Commander says, remember Jimmy Clausen? Vaguely. Yes, I do. Let's see. Oh, the New England Patriots have made their selection. The center from Georgia, Jared Wilson, is now officially off the board. Seen a couple people in the chat upset about that. They wanted the 49ers to take a center. The Niners don't see center as big of an issue. They just flat out don't. And maybe they're thinking that if Brendel doesn't work, that Nick Zakelj is able to step in for him. There's been talk about that. I know they've worked him there a little bit. So maybe they're thinking that Nick Zakelj could fill in at center. I have no idea. But obviously, they're not trading up. They didn't even address any position on offense, let alone the offensive line. So that I can only assume that's what they're saying, but that's their philosophy. Like we said, we heard at the owners' meetings that they think that their offensive line is way better than we do. And honestly, like, if Spencer Burford doesn't go rogue in the Super Bowl and the Niners win that Super Bowl, is anybody saying anything about the offensive line? No. It was just the fact that specifically that play had Chris Jones unblocked because Spencer Burford went rogue and the Niners didn't win the Super Bowl, that we all have this focus on them. But they've gotten to the Super Bowl with two offensive lines that were not loaded with all pros. They had great players at left tackle in Joe Staley and Trent Williams. The other players, were just guys, quite frankly. Mike McGlinchey, solid player, nothing amazing. The league will forget he ever played in it the second he's out of it. They had Mike Person as was one of the guards, I think, in 2019 in the Super Bowl. Like, they've been able to get to the Super Bowl with a line that was not full of all pros. And I think they think they can do it again. We are 4 picks away. The Atlanta Falcons has selected Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame, is now off the board. So we have 3 picks, 2 teams. The D'Amico Ryans and the Texans are up at 97 right now. Then you've got the Raiders for 2. I would not be shocked if the Raiders traded out of one of those picks, but that's the situation right now before the 49ers' final pick of day 2 of the NFL draft. This is sort of an interesting tweet that David Lombardi just put out about Nick Martin, the last 49ers pick. He says, this is fascinating. New 49ers linebacker Nick Martin has very similar measurables to Malik Mustafa. Nick Martin's about 10 pounds heavier. I think we may be witnessing the final boss of the meld between linebacker and safety the 49ers have sought over the years. I've never seen Nick Martin with his shirt off. I have seen Malik Mustafa with his shirt off, and I can tell you that there are not a lot of human beings, regardless of what the athletic testing is, there are not a lot of human beings that look like Malik Mustafa. I don't know what this means for the 49ers scheme. Does that mean that they want to put Nick Martin maybe at safety some of the time? Does that mean that they are sort of blending linebacker safety into just sort of one sort of player? I'm not quite sure. I'm sure we'll get some answers when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch speak about how they plan on using Nick Martin. Maybe they'll let us know then. I don't know. But it'd be interesting. PMG says Mustafa looks like he's made of Italian marble. I totally agree. The guy is scary good. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat really quick. Ethan Parrish says David Lombardi wants you to know the Niners made a good decision, not really news. Well, he doesn't even say it's a good decision, really. He's just pointing out that they have similar measurables. And look, I've crushed David Lombardi for 1 million tweets, and I'll crush him for 1 million more because he says a lot of dumb things. But I just didn't think that was, that was not one of his worst tweets. There are a lot of tweets you can get on David Lombardi for. He also went on to say the Niners have loved linebackers with safety defensive backgrounds. It's been a hack for them to achieve good coverage out of their linebackers. That is true. They blurred the line between those two position groups, and adaptability is king in the modern NFL. Okay, so now he's getting into the Lombardiism of the whole thing. But, I mean, Fred Warner was a safety in college, too. So that is a thing that the Niners do. They like, and as MC points out, the positionless defense. The franchise points out Malik Mustafa still got trucked by Mahomes. Yeah, well, one play I think really should define an entire player's career. That seems right. AJ Lamb, 88, says, Stats, would you rather hang out with Lombardi or Grant? Well, I want to say, even though I did a show with Grant for a while, like, we don't really know each other. The only time we ever really talked was on the show, and we only ever really talked about the 49ers for the most part, or sometimes about YouTube. So I don't really know either one. But I think I would pick Grant over Lombardi. And again, I don't know Lombardi, but from what I know of Grant, he seems like he would be more fun to hang out with. But I'm not really qualified to speak on that, either one. John K says, Rob, taking Sanders would almost guarantee the Hard Knocks season. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're definitely right, John. That is a great point. Which desire of yours wins out, John asks. No circus with Sanders or all the circus with Hard Knocks? Well, see, but the Hard Knocks circus is a little different. With Sanders, what you get is players essentially competing against one another, right? And that part scares me a little bit. That's the part I don't like. If it was just Hard Knocks, it's almost like giving the team an enemy, and sometimes that can rally them up a little bit. And I just want the insight. I don't get anything from a Shedeur Brock Purdy quarterback controversy. The Niners being on Hard Knocks, I find out, how does Kyle interact with these guys? What's Brock Purdy do and say in the meetings? And how does he look? What is Robert Saleh doing around the building? How much power does he have? Is there a power struggle between he and Kyle Shanahan? I feel like there's a lot that we would learn through Hard Knocks. So even though it would be a pain in the ass for the team, I would learn something. I'm willing to put them through that pain in the ass because it doesn't really affect me personally, right? I got nothing to lose. So that's why I would pick Hard Knocks over Shedeur Sanders. Let's see. Jalen Smith was taken by the Houston Texans, the corner out of USC. So now the Raiders are up for 2 as it stands right now. We are at pick 98. Pick 98, pick 99, and then the Raiders are all that stands in the Niners' way between them and another selection. Let me take a quick drink. Yeah, Jay Frank Parnell says the Raiders have the next 2 picks. If Shedeur's going, he's going now. I completely agree with that. I don't know what to hope for right here for the 49ers. They've gone all defense. If you want an offensive, what do you want, a tackle or a center? If you want a center, supposedly the best center is off the board, apparently. So now it's, Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State was a guy that I've heard talked about to the 49ers as a potential player. Now, Dane Brugler has him in the 4th or 5th round. This would be the end of the 3rd. So, would it be that much of a stretch? Who knows? Willie Lampkin is another guy that I've heard as a center that could go to the 49ers. Do you want a guard, right? That right now, Ben Barch looks like he's going to be the starting left guard. Where do you go there? Marcus, I don't know how to say this guy's last name. Mbao from Purdue. Let me see. Bao like bow and arrow. Oh, Bo. Marcus Mbo from Purdue. Some people have said him. I know Levin would be happy. He's a Purdue guy. What are you hoping for in the chat? Are you hoping for a position? Are you hoping for a player? Benjamin says Scatterboo is great, but he's a 4th or a 5th rounder. I agree. The first Raiders pick is in. So that means that only one pick stands in the 49ers way. I'm trying to see who they have announced. Is that I don't know who that is for the Raiders that's announcing the pick. They always have all these friggin' people. Just announce the damn pick and let's go. Come on, say the name so we can all move on with our lives. ESPN hasn't updated their website yet. Chat, have you seen it? I'm not seeing it so far. They still talking? Oh my God, dude. Just make the pick already. This is ridiculous. This is like pulling teeth. Okay, it's Caleb Rogers, offensive tackle from Texas Tech. That's the Raiders' first pick. Finally. Jeez. You know, these guys get up in front of the microphone at the draft and they think it's like, oh, it's my time to shine. Like, dude, shut up. Nobody wants to hear from you. Get there, read the pick, and get off the stage. It's like Ricky Gervais said when he was hosting the Golden Globes. Thank your agent and your God and get the hell off the stage. That is exactly what we need. You have one job to do. Read a name on a card and get off. All right, here we go. Pick 99 for the Raiders. We'll see if they do take Shedeur Sanders, in fact. And then the Niners are up. And if the Niners take Shedeur Sanders, forget it. Then it's going to be chaos. It will be madness if the 49ers do. I don't think they're going to do. I don't think they can go 3 rounds, take no offensive players, and then with their first offensive player at the end of round 3, take a quarterback. The ultimate luxury pick. And I know some people have said, well, hey, they can do this and it puts pressure on Brock Purdy. They already have Mac Jones. They signed Mac Jones to do that. So they don't need to draft a quarterback in order to do that. They already have that pressure in-house. Nighthawk Drew on Twitch, shout out to the Twitch fam, says, I don't see any reason the Niners would take Sanders. I completely agree. Jose Mendez says, we are on the clock. Wow, the Raiders actually made both the picks. I'm surprised. A lot of the times teams don't use both picks when they have back-to-back, but obviously the Raiders did in this instance. So the Niners are officially on the clock. I guess I need to refresh the Jed York Twitter feed. Do I do it? You know what? I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't want to know. I want to go in completely blind in this one. I'll check Jed York's Twitter feed after the fact. The Raiders took Charles Grant, a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle. Is he offensive tackle or offensive tackle, I believe, from William and Mary. That was somebody else that was mentioned to the 49ers. So the Niners names are coming off the board. York did tweet. Oh, okay. I don't want to know. Don't even tell me, chat. I don't want to know. I want to go in fresh, like they said at Seinfeld. I want to go in completely fresh, and we'll see. So Niners' last pick of day 2, pick 100 in the draft. I'm not checking. I'm not waiting. I'm going to I'm going to go in fresh and clean. I'm going to look at some of the positions. I wouldn't mind if they went defensive line again, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't. I know they have Michael Williams. I know they took Alfred Collins. You still need more. John Lynch, remember what he said after they took Michael Williams in the press conference? He's like, he ain't going to be the last defensive lineman we take. Now that they've already taken one since then, I think you could take another defensive tackle. I think you could take another defensive end. I think you could take a corner or a safety. Really, any level of the defense, you're totally justified. And I don't think you have to go offense just because you haven't gone offense before. That is not a thing that, it doesn't work like that. You take the way the board falls to you. You don't have to do one or the other. That's the way, what does Brian Billick always say? Need is a terrible evaluator. Well, need is a terrible evaluator. And of course, they go to commercial. They go to commercial on the 49ers pick. That it seems like it happens every time my team is on the clock. Forget it. I don't want to make it. I don't want to wait anymore. I'm checking Twitter right now to see the pick if it has in fact been leaked, which okay, I think I know what they're doing. I just saw the Jed York tweet. Throw it up on the screen for you. Jed York can't measure heart. Hashtag nickel for your thoughts. So, okay. I think it's pretty obvious they're going to go corner. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Dane Brugler draft guide, and we'll see who's on the board here. Travis Hunter, obviously gone. Will Johnson, gone. Jahdae Barron, gone. Maxwell Harrison, gone. Trey Amos, gone. Revel is gone. Noel Williams is gone. Interesting. The Niners have had some luck taking some corners. Obviously, Diamador Lenore in round 5 was good. Obviously, Renardo Green, I think, was really good. I'm really encouraged by him. We'll see if they actually go corner again. That would be defense again, though, right? I mean, can't measure heart, #nickel for your thoughts. Unless the guy wears number 5, it's got to be a corner. It's got to be somebody that they imagine playing at the nickel, or at least has the potential to play in the nickel. That would be another straight defensive pick. Robert Saleh, this is Christmas for Robert Saleh. Absolutely Christmas. Apparently, the Broncos have traded with the Eagles at 101, but I still haven't seen the Niners pick actually reported anywhere. Get through the commercial break, ESPN. Let's go. Wait, apparently, did Abdul Carter get into something with Lawrence Taylor? I'm just seeing this on Twitter. My stance doesn't change. LT is the GOAT, nothing but respect. This is just going to make me work even harder. I have no idea what he said. Okay. Still nothing for the 49ers? Come on, 49ers beat. What do you got for me? The Niners tweeted out 2 minutes ago, we have made a selection. Yeah, great. Now tell us who it is, for the love of God. I still haven't seen it. This is crazy. Come on, let's go, ESPN. Yes, okay, now you got to do another thing. Courtyard by Marriott. Great. I'm dying here. Chet, have you seen it? Yeah, as J. Frank Parnell points out, the 11th pick came during a commercial. They feel like they always go to commercial on the 49ers pick. Who is it? The pick is in. I see the Niners logo. They're announcing the damn thing. Let's see. I'm going to put the volume up on the draft. Oh, they're still just wasting time. Let's go. We don't need. Okay, finally, here we go. Coming to the podium. With the 100th pick in the 3rd round of the 2025 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Upton Stout, a cornerback from Western Kentucky. Some people in the chat are very happy about this. Tell me why in the chat. I don't know. I don't know anything about Upton Stout. Good name. 5'8", not tall for a corner. But hold on. Let me go to the Dane Brugler draft guide and we can talk about this. Let's find out about him together. I'm watching the film on ESPN. Seems pretty cool. Where does Dane Brugler have Upton Stout? Let's see. At least he has him in the guide, right? That's a good sign. Niners could have used a corner. I think it makes sense. Was it their most pressing need at this point? No, I would say probably not the most pressing need, but still a need. And I can understand the logic. I think that the 49ers have not made any head-scratching picks position-wise to this point. A 3-year starter at Western Kentucky, Stout lined up at nickel corner in the scheme. After playing primarily on the outside his first 4 years in college, he moved inside for his senior season and raised his NFL profile. His ball production fell off in 2024, but he didn't see nearly as many targets. According to Dane Brugler, Stout has a balanced pedal and pitter-patter footwork to cleanly mirror and stay attached to different types of route runners. Why haven't I put this on the screen yet? Sorry about that. His aggressive nature gives him a noticeable swagger versus both pass and run. Love that. Thank you very much. He prefers press man to off man. I like that too. Aggressiveness will lead to flags and overzealous decisions, though. Overall, his lack of inches shows versus size and coverage, but so does his competitive urgency and controlled movements in all areas of the position. He projects as a slot corner. That's why Jed York said nickel, who can be a role player similar to Avonte Maddox. He ran a 4.44 40-yard dash, 9-inch hands, 30-inch arms, 74 3/8-inch wingspan. Ran a 1.56 10-yard split. Did he do bench? 21 reps on the bench is pretty impressive for a guy that's, not super tall. He's only 5'9". If we're looking at strengths, fluid body movements, and controlled footwork in man-to-man, enough speed to stay in phase when carrying crossers. He got up to 19.47 miles per hour during the gauntlet and was the fastest among defensive backs at the combine. Physical and sudden in click and close. I don't know what click and close means, but okay. Sniffs out the screen game well and makes stops at or behind the line of scrimmage. Plays bigger than his size. He would have to. Decent wingspan, competitive play style. worked on special teams coverage as well. Led all DBs with 21 reps on the combine at the bench and lined up inside and outside. Let's get to some weaknesses now. Short, lean frame, falls below height weight thresholds. Yeah, we know. Doesn't have elite recovery speed, more pesky than powerful, not a deterrent on fades or downfield throws. Yeah, because he's short. We get it. We'll get handsy or wrap around receivers. He got flagged for defensive holding. Okay, everybody gets flagged. Tough to find ball production on 2024 tape. We'll get stuck on blocks. And missed 6 games as a junior because of a shoulder injury. Don't love that. But all right. So that's the 49ers' newest draft pick, their final draft pick on day 2. Upton Stout. Brandon Chavez says worst pick so far. Dustin says worst reach of the draft so far. The franchise says I don't hate it. I mean, I don't know how you could hate it. Have you really dug into Upton Stout? Really? Or did they just not take the guy you wanted them to take or the position you wanted them to take? I mean, I just have a hard time believing that you really, Upton Stout was the guy that you really dug in on and didn't like. Again, I'm going to cut him slack. I'm going to give him some grace. They went all defense the first 2 days of the draft. Defense, 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 defense. Edge with Michael Williams. Then they went defensive tackle with Alfred Collins. Then they went linebacker with Nick Martin. And now they go corner with Upton Stout, who, by the way, I've decided is either going to be a really good player or a terrible player simply based on his name. Like, oh, Upton Stout, he's so good. Or it's like, oh, yeah, remember when they took Upton Stout? That's what I've decided. It's one or the other. Just know in between how we grade these draft picks. So that's it for day 2 for the 49ers, unless they somehow trade back, which I can't imagine that they will. This, to me, again, I know I keep talking about it, but it's all about Robert Saleh. The power of Robert Saleh in that building is bigger than it's ever been. Tim Kawakami mentioned it when he talked about him, that he had more power than ever, and it's clear that he does, because defense, defense, defense for the entire first 2 days of the draft. Jeff Deeney of Pro Football Focus, let me stop the screen and I can bring up his tweet, because I already mentioned all the draft picks, so you already see that. Says Upton Stout lined up primarily outside in 2022 and 23, and the majority of the time at slot corner last year at Western Kentucky. 78.9 passer rating allowed in his collegiate career. Strong grades versus the run in the last 2 years for a guy his size. The Niners like their corners to be able to tackle. That's one of the things they liked most about Mooney Ward, was that he was not shy about going in and playing the run. That's the Niners game. They run at the other team's corners, and they want their corners to be physical. Excuse me. If he develops as expected, Matt Barrows said Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green could remain on the outside. And I wonder if that's where they want Lenoir. I know he can do both, but maybe they wanted Lenoir to stay on the outside, so they specifically went and got a nickel corner that they think can play on the inside. And that's part of it, too. Every pick, I always talk about the roster construction as a Rubik's Cube. Every one decision you make affects every other decision. Just like every turn you make on a Rubik's Cube affects every other side. And this is the effect that the Niners are hoping, is that it means that Deommodore Lenoir can stay on the outside. Cam Inman, sorry, I was just seeing, wrote an article about the Niners bypassing Shedeur Sanders with their final pick, which of course we know that they did do. But like, I want to read this article. I'm going to try and scan it really quickly. Does that mean that they like really considered it? You know, was that mean like, was there some debate in the draft room? I find it hard to believe that Cam would know that right now. I'm just trying to see. Yeah, no. Okay. This is a nothing article. This is somebody telling Cam, you got to write something about Shedeur Sanders because he's the story of the draft. And so he just wrote about the other quarterbacks that were taken ahead of him. All right. So I think day 3, we're going to see a lot of offensive guys. I think. I don't really know, but you would think. Upton Stout becomes the 4th defensive player drafted for the 49ers. People are bringing up Bob Sanders, I see in the chat. Bob Sanders was a safety, not a corner. That's different. So we'll see. I like this comment from Astro. We got our K'Wan Williams back. K'Wan Williams was a good player for the 49ers and a valuable player in the scheme. So we'll see if, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll see if Upton Stout can actually be that and get it done. Christ Responder says Upton the Saran Wrap Stout. I don't even know that he needs a nickname. Mr. Irrelevant says Stout will play the slot like K'Wan Williams. Jason PDSI says we didn't draft a kicker. It's a good day. Yeah, let's all celebrate that. You guys are funny in the chat. That kicker thing is never going to die. Michael Velasco says trash pick. Okay, can I see some justification for that, Michael? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm asking you, what are you basing that off of? That's what I want to know. Just tell me your reasoning. Throw it in the chat. Well, what is so terrible about the pick? PMG says, wasn't RW McQuarters about 5'9"? Man, there are some old school. You got to go back a ways to get to some of these 49ers defensive backs. RW McQuarters was not a name I expected to see brought up. Over the last 2 seasons, Nick Wagoner says, Stout has not allowed a touchdown as the nearest defender in coverage in over 400 snaps. To get that guy a pick 100, I don't know. That doesn't sound like trash to me. That sounds pretty good. Sounds like somebody maybe worth taking a flyer on. Alejandro says people are just hating on the pick because he's small, which is stupid. I agree. Like, yeah, he's small, but it's not like no small corners ever play in the NFL. Does he do other things? Does he do other things to compensate is what you have to ask. I haven't seen the response from Mike, who was trashing the pick. Throw it in there. Let me know why. Or you just want to say something to get people mad at you in the chat. Are you just trolling? Cobra Commander says, if we're going to go that far back, how about Jason Webster from Texas? Wasn't he 5'8"? Some people just wake up punching the air. Yeah, that's true. But that was a good note. Nick Wagoner always puts out good stuff. Hasn't allowed a touchdown in coverage as the nearest defender in over 409 coverage snaps. Good. Good. All right, so before we go here, I want to know, what grade would you give the Niners at this point? I think you got to give them a solid B, would be my question. Al Sacco put that question out on Twitter. I would give them a solid B to this point. They did address needs. Did they need to go defense with all 4? I don't know. They clearly thought so. Most people, for what it's worth, in the poll gave the Niners a B. Let's see a couple of the grades in the chat. Paul says B. Paul Tricky. Mike says B. MC, B as well. Nikita says B+. Okay, I like that. Jason says, stop reading negative fan comments. Sorry, I try to, I want to get a feel for everybody. Another B grade. Oh, Brandon says it was an A till this last pick. Man, you must really hate that pick. Diego Figueroa says, I give it a solid eh. That's mean. Wedge Antilles, A-. I don't know how you could go below a B. I don't, honestly. Like, some people, there's a couple people, 9.8% of the poll that Al put up said C, 1.1% said D. Like, what's your justification for it being below a B? They had to go defense. They had to go defensive line. They had to. It was pitiful. The state of the defense was pitiful. They had to improve it. They chose not to go that route in free agency for the most part. So this was it. It was either do this or your defense is horrible. So now, did they take the best possible players? I guess if you wanted Walter Nolan instead of Michael Williams, okay. But that to me would knock it down from an A to a B, not below a B. Honestly, I really don't know how you could go below a B, quite frankly. So, and Cobra Commander says it's incomplete because it's the real. I know it's the only grade. It's just a gauge. I understand you're allowed to change your opinion on these players because we haven't seen them. Bill says they address positions correctly. That's a B. No big A splashes and no bad picks. They also didn't give up any draft capital for 2026. That's something to consider as well. So, they filled needs, hopefully with good players, and they didn't hurt themselves for 2026. Steven says Scattaboo at 113. It'd be interesting. We'll see. Alejandro says people that voted D don't know football and wanted Shedeur the celebrity. Yeah, I do think that maybe could be part of it. People like names, right? You want teams to pick names that you know, and I get that part of it, but that, game over name, right? Isn't that what we would say? Anyway, that's going to do it for the 49ers in the draft. That's going to do it for day 2 of the NFL draft because it is officially over. Savion Jones for the Broncos went at the next pick, and Ty Felton, the wide receiver, was the last pick for the Minnesota Vikings, the last pick of day 2. Thank you, everybody. There's over 1,000 people watching. Normally, I have a partner. Things got a little crazy today with the draft, so I didn't have a partner today. If this is your first time checking us out, please like and subscribe. I promise you, just give us a chance. We're here every day covering the 49ers. I promise you, you will like what you hear. We're going to have plenty of breakdown on these picks. Todd McShay is going to join us hopefully in the next couple of weeks to help break down the picks. Dieter Kurtenbach is going to join us. Thor Nystrom is going to join us to help evaluate the draft once it's all completed. Please lock in right here. I promise you, if you give us a chance, we will earn your time. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you for following me with the whole stream where Levin shut down the other stream and I had to get another one up and running. I greatly appreciate it. Your support means everything to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to go try and sleep. I'm going to go try and rest my voice. I love you all, and we'll talk tomorrow.